Hey, welcome back to another edition of Daily Scone. Glad you found the podcast. If you have not done so yet, whatever platform on which you are consuming this, please hit the subscribe button, rate us. That's everything. That's kind of how we get priority in searches, and it's just very, very important. So I appreciate it very much. And if you're finding this on social media, if you'd hit a retweet or a share, that would just be huge. So thanks so much. If you're new to the podcast, this is not a sports podcast. I don't do X's and O's and break down my opinions on other sports matters. I have my daily radio show and a YouTube show and so many other platforms where I do that. This is just sort of me talking about my profession and sports media, and then just other random musings about things that I kind of find interesting. And something really interesting happened today, kind of in conjunction with my show, and it was a pretty good lesson, actually, like about how to not internalize things that may happen, and actually to expect unexpected responses from things that you put out there, either as a member of the media or just as a human. So LSU just wrapped up this region Corvallis where they were playing. They lost, and it's no biggie. But something happened last week and then continued this week, which kind of changed my impression of Oregonians. And I don't want to paint with a broad brush like everyone in the state or everyone in the city of Corvallis or everyone that's an Oregon State fan, but I had a really just weird experience on Twitter with Oregon State fans. Just quickly, I'll share these two experiences with you. Last Monday, so Memorial Day, the day that the regional field was announced, and LSU was sent to Corvallis. It would be the longest trip in the history of the program. After the regional field's announced, they're doing media availability. Paul Mainieri, who's LSU's coach, comes over to meet with the print media. And I'm standing there, and a couple of the guys who are going to be making the trip to cover the regional are looking up flights. And Paul Mainieri comes over, and they're like basically telling him that it was Luke Johnson and James Moran. And they're telling him, hey, it's like looks like Portland is the nearest airport, and that's an hour and a half drive from Portland to Corvallis. And Paul's like, man, do they not have like a municipal airport or something we could fly, like that our charter can fly into? And then they tell him it's about a 5 hour flight, and he's just perplexed. He's like, really? He didn't get or really know, I guess, just how far Oregon was up in the Pacific Northwest. That it was, like, I guess if you showed him a map, he couldn't have pointed to Oregon. And it was a genuinely, like, funny moment. And it doesn't mean that, like, the guy doesn't value education or is knocking the state of Oregon. He clearly just doesn't know his U.S. geography. And one of the writers, Glenn Gilbo of Gannett, who said, didn't you coach at the Air Force Academy, which, of course, is in Colorado, which is certainly near Oregon. And Paul says, they paid me to coach the baseball team, not teach geography. And it was just a genuinely funny moment. It wasn't intended to be a slight or anything like that. So I tweet that quote, and just that, it was a funny moment, made my day sort of thing. And somehow, and you got to understand in context as well, that Paul Mainieri is one of the nicest men that you'll meet. Just a genuinely, like, a nice man. I've never had a cross word with the guy. And he's been LSU's coach for 12 years. Genuinely respect his candor. I've done so many different events for charities where we've been there at the same time. I'm emceeing and he's a guest of honor sort of thing. So anyway, somehow Oregon State fans get linked in on this tweet. Somebody saw it, and then an Oregon State fan saw it, and then a media site saw it, and they retweeted or commented, and all there. So it just started circulating among Oregon State, and I just got inundated with people that are Oregon State fans just destroying me, destroying Paul Mainieri. People like literally like saying they want to fight, like a long bearded man who wanted to fight after all of this. It was a really quite bizarre moment because in my head I'm thinking, okay, Oregon is a socially liberal state, certainly a leftist state. I'm thinking pacifists and people that again, painting with a broad brush here, but my assumption here is that for the most part you're talking about people that are ride their bicycles so they don't drive a vehicle and harm the environment, or at least drive a Prius or something, or an electric car, and the hikers, and they wear hemp, and I get that I'm stereotyping, but no different than people would stereotype much of South Louisiana, which many of those stereotypes are true because That's how stereotypes in some form or fashion are generated based on some degree of truth. But anyway, I was just very surprised to get that much animosity. It was almost like dealing with Florida fans, like people that just get belligerent and angry and uncouth. Anyway, so it caught me off guard. I literally deleted the tweet, which I never do, just because, not that I was offended by anything, but it was just like it was cluttering my mentions one after another. And so the weekend goes on, LSU loses to Oregon State, but in the game on Sunday, now mind you, this is June the 3rd. In the game on Sunday night, I'm watching, and there's people in hoodies and like wrapped up in blankets at this baseball stadium. No, it's June the 3rd. Understand, in South Louisiana, we had a heat index of 102 all weekend. I literally spent the weekend getting sunburned by the pool. So for me to like be watching this game without a shirt on because I'm red like a lobster, got like aloe on me, trying to get this heat out of my body from being burned. It's June. I'm watching this game, and everybody's in hoodies and wearing blankets and long sleeves and gloves, and I'm going, Jesus, it's June. Now, something else you got to know about me is I hate being cold. It's literally, for me, the worst sensation in the world is being cold. If I get in a pool, like if I dip my toe in the pool water and it's got a chill on it, I'm not getting in. If my wife starts her bath or the laundry while my shower's on and it blasts me with cold, like I'm screaming. I hate when she puts the air condition on like 68 at night, so it's blowing all night and I'm free. I cannot stand being cold. It's the worst thing for me in the world. So anyway, I'm looking at this going, it's June, and so I go back to Twitter, not adding anybody. I'm not adding Oregon State fans or anything like that. And I tweet, biggest upset of the regional so far, Oregon State fans wearing hoodies, or fans wearing hoodies and blankets in Corvallis in June. I'll go ahead and never live there, is how I ended the tweet. And it was just a Twitter, a funny, just nothing tweet. As Twitter is, no one should ever take Twitter too seriously. It's a vehicle where people are sarcastic and people try to be the funniest person, on Twitter that day. And it was just a nothing comment that some people might chuckle at and then scroll on their feed. And it was just a passing nothing. Well, yet again, people got a hold of that tweet. I guess maybe people who had started following my stuff after the first one last week. And like some of the fan sites in the Oregon State Twitter accounts for some of their fan sites start like replying to that tweet. And it's literally people just like crushing me, thinking that that's this whole affront to the state of Oregon. And so I start actually responding to some like, hey, whoa, like, full disclosure here, okay? Like the Barstool Beavers account tweeted at me that like I was being a bitch who got bullied in a bar fight, like got punched. It was something like you got beat up on the playground, and as you're walking away, you're still talking shit. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, it's a nothing tweet. And I get that Twitter a lot of times isn't the most level-headed, sane-thinking receptacle of content, but some things just catch you very much off guard. The fact that a non-abrasive tweet could generate such a visceral reaction caught me off guard. And, like, full disclosure, I think Oregon is beautiful. Like, it could be the most beautiful state in the country. Now, like, it depends, like if you love beaches, like sandy beaches, then maybe you love LA, or if you want to be down in San Diego where the weather's gorgeous all year long, or Miami, maybe the Cape or something like that is something that's just appealing to you. If you want rolling hills, or if you want like the Rocky Mountains, maybe Colorado. So it's each their own, but the uniqueness of the mountains, the greenery, the Pacific, like in Oregon is gorgeous. I would just never want to live there because I don't like being cold. That's. I'd love to visit. I'd love to go play Bandon Dunes. There's a lot about Oregon that I kind of get jazzed about, man. I'd love to go up there and drink some craft beer and play some golf and experience the state. But I don't ever want to live there because I don't ever want to be cold. There's lots of places like Chicago. I mean, I lived in Indiana for a year, and I'll never live in the Midwest because like bone chilling winters. We got when I lived in Indiana, I lived in South Bend for a year. We got our first snow in October and our last snow in May. I will never go back. Like, I'll go visit, gladly go visit. Chicago's a great town. I'll just never go live there. Like, I will never live in the Midwest for that reason. Anyway, so it genuinely caught me off guard. And I would just like to put out a plea that if anyone is from Oregon and you're listening to this, maybe you can enlighten me. Like, because I really thought that Oregon people would just be generally, like, relaxed and sort of pacifist, like I mentioned, and, you know, just sort of chill and content. I really didn't expect, like, angry, mad, vulgar Twitter wars with Oregon State people. So maybe you can enlighten me. Maybe I've just misrepresented the people of Oregon all this time. Or maybe it's just a few jackasses on Twitter, quite possibly. Which is probably the case, as I think of it. But nonetheless, I wish Oregon State good luck as they move through the postseason. They got a really good team. Not super psyched about them having a convicted child molester on their team. But then again, that's for Pat Casey to decide, not me. Either way, that's going to do it for another edition of Daily Scone. A very random edition of Daily Scone. But I would, I'll leave you with this. People of Oregon, I think your state is beautiful. And you got a good thing going on there. So keep doing you, but also understand that Twitter, don't take it so seriously. Okay? All right. Y'all have a great day. It's Daily Scone.